Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope everyone has had a really good day. And even if it was really busy like mine was, I just hope you'll take these 90 minutes that we have together and just relax and kind of focus in on the topic that we have for today, which is much needed in our field, and just maybe take some of this time to unwind a little bit. Um, Let me set up my screen 1 second, just so everything is where it needs to be. It was a second ago. All right. So I'll introduce myself just briefly. Um, Starting with the most important thing about me, the people and the furries that I love. I can't take up the space or the time, nor would I want to just include everything that my heart loves. But this is a sample of the people who give me purpose, and they make me feel young again and vital, and they remind me that the world isn't always just a scary place. These are people who give me people and furries that give me some purpose. So you see around this slide, my ebony and ivory cats. That's Sylvia and Lewis. They're in the top left up there. And directly under them is my own ebony and ivory marriage, me and my husband, Thomas. And our fur babies are a reflection of us, we like to say. And then a couple of my children are in here. Our youngest daughter and our youngest son are in here, and my mother is there. So those are some of the people who make a difference for me and why I do what I do every day. So I am 35 years into early childhood education as of this past August 15th. I started as an assistant teacher in a nursery classroom on the North Shore of Chicago in a community where I lived, and then I began to work. And I progressed through everything from training and professional development to program leadership and administration roles at the local level, the state level, the federal level. I've done a lot of what many of you have done, maybe sometimes less time than you've done it. Head Start programs, early Head Start programs, home visiting, all those wonderful things, all those great services that we offer to our children and their families here. I've had an opportunity to work in most of those. I have a consulting firm myself, my own LLC called Get Back to Basics Early Childhood Solutions. And that's a little bit about me. My favorite color right now, I'm in the greens right now. I'm in the different shades of green. So I'd love for you all, if you feel inclined, because there are so many of us here, we won't be able to unmute or have a conversation. We're not that intimate of a group, but I would love for people to put into the chat, if you feel inclined, something about you, what's interesting about you, or fun, or something that would be cool for us to know. Plus, please put in your current role and where you're doing it. So, and as we're talking and you're getting those in there, let's just take a look at who our colleagues are and where our colleagues are. Also, can anyone, I can't see everyone, but can I get a thumbs up if everyone can see the slides and you can hear
I
me
can.
okay? Is
Yeah,
this a good pace and you can see what we have? Great, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that help. So go ahead and put that into the chat, who you are, something fun about you, where you're working, and what your role is. And we'll all get a chance to look at those in just a little bit. Let's move forward. Okay, so let's warm up a little bit. I tend to do workshops, so we do some work together in these things, not just lectures or presentations. So, given that there are so many of us on the platform together, we won't be able to go into small groups or do any breakouts or unmute and talk unless we get to a point where we just really need to do that. Um, but what we can all do is we can use the chat feature, right? We can all have a voice in the chat. You can use the chat to respond to anything that I'm sharing, anything I'm saying, to ask questions, to share your thoughts and your expertise. Please use the chat and add in things that you know that we're talking about, things that you wonder. So let's practice using the chat. Okay. We're going to do something a little bit fun. I think it's fun. You see here on this picture my two kitties, Sylvia and Lou. you see them at the screen door here. So take a moment or two and just drop your best caption into the chat. Okay. Let's drop your best one. How would you caption this picture? Caption this. And let's take a minute and look through some of those. And we can even give an imaginary prize to the best one. We can give some points or an imaginary prize. Go ahead and caption that. All right. And as you're doing that, I'm seeing your areas and your roles in work. Thank you for that. All over the state. Excellent. Someone's in Sandwich, Illinois. Hi, I'm in Plano. We're neighbors. Awesome. Thank you all for putting those in there. Let's take just a few more moments on the captions. Oh my goodness, Mary Reynolds, look at your babies. Those are good captions too. I love these. Tell her to open the door. I can't pick a favorite. These are awesome. These are, let's make a run for it. That's true. Oh, reflecting. What do you want to do today, Charlie? I don't know, Morris. These are awesome. Outdoor recess today. Wonderful. Keep them coming. Keep them coming as you think of more. These are great. Nicely done, everybody. So that's how you can use the chat. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you want to add something to one of our discussions, please put it in the chat so that your colleagues can see it. I will have different points where I'm able to stop and see chats. I won't be able to read them all the way through, but I will go back to them when we have those different points. Okay. Thank you for that. Nice. Let's keep going. We've warmed up. Okay, so let's move into some content. And thank you again for having a little bit of fun with me. So let's do the first things we should do first. Let's build out the framework for tonight's topic. The topic is infant and early childhood mental health consultation. There is an art and a science to it, and we'll go through all of those things so that by the time you leave, you'll have a really good cursory understanding of that. So let's start with what's first, okay? So you may be asking, what is that? What is infant and early childhood mental health consultation? But far less practitioners than we actually think have even heard of the field, even in our state. And in our state, we have a really healthy infant and early childhood mental health program, but not everybody knows about it yet. And even fewer sometimes understand what it actually is and how to access the services and how to use them. So we'll look at all of those topics in the workshop today and be able to clear up some of that for ourselves. One of the ways to understand what infant and early childhood mental health is, one of the best ways to understand it is to first get a handle and get really clear on what it isn't. So take a moment and just look at some of these dot points here. These are statements of what of infant and early childhood mental health absolutely is not. So take a moment and look through some of those. Okay. So in the consultation, the consultant, the person who comes to the site, the center, the home, the classroom to work with the adults who are there working with children, they don't come in the position of the expert. They are not the person who knows everything about how to help a child fix a situation or enhance a classroom. We come in as consultants as one partnership of a whole team, a care team. And again, we'll talk more about that. But one of the most important things to understand is that the consultant is not a therapist, not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They don't come in the position of an expert. They do come with certain skills and competencies, but they don't come in the position of an expert. Another thing is that there is no clinical component to infant and early childhood mental health consultation. There is a component of referring, maybe getting the support and the help of someone who's clinical, but the consultation itself is not clinical in nature, and the consultant does not do clinical or therapeutic or counseling type work. The focus also is not on any one child or family. So, as consultants, we don't come into the classroom to fix a child or to fix childhood behaviors or to fix a family. We come to look at the entire environment and help the environment support a child in growth and development that it needs socially, emotionally, and mentally. And then the final two, the goals of consultation are not just around childhood behaviors, especially undesirable childhood behaviors. So the goal of the consultation is not to come in and stop children from kicking by itself. That is something we want, right? We don't want children kicking, but that's not the goal of consultation. And we'll talk about what the goal is as we go further. But it is important for us to remember as we're thinking about this, there isn't like one right answer. There isn't one way that we can fix, and I put that in quotes, a child or a child's behavior or a family or the problem in the classroom. It takes a combination of understanding, of different skills and knowledges, and definitely what we call the care team to be working together for the infant and early childhood mental health consultation to be effective and to be impactful. That care team includes the consultant, but it also includes the classroom teacher, the assistant or associate teacher, any paraprofessionals that are in that classroom setting, the administrator, the director, the manager, like all of those people, and sometimes as well the parent becomes part of the care team. And in the case where a child is old enough to speak and share and help us know what is going on, the child can even become a part of the care team. So all of these dot points that you see here are what consultation is not. We see here in the purple that consultation is not, if we were to put it into a nutshell or a summary, it is not therapy for young children. It is not psychiatric or psychological therapy for young children. So we have a good understanding of what it's not. Let's just metabolize that for a few seconds. And then let's move on to what it is. Knowing what infant and early childhood mental health uh, consultation isn't really helps us to better understand what it is. And you see here on the bottom left, consultation is a way to create healthy environments where children spend time. That's a nutshell response for what consultation is. It is a way to create healthy social, emotional, mental, and intellectual environments where children spend most of their time. Early childhood settings in all their different types: family child care, home visiting, preschool, district funded settings, even in pediatrician offices and other places where children may be receiving services, therapeutic services. Infant and early childhood mental health happens in those spaces too. The overarching goal is for the consultants to help the adults who are working with children to foster a healthy social and emotional climate and culture in those spaces that serve young children and their families. So take a moment and read through these dot points about what the consultation actually is. Now's a good time before we shift gears a little bit. We kind of have done the introductory portion of infant and early childhood mental health consultation. Do you have right now questions, comments, additional thoughts? Go ahead and put those into the chat, and I'll wait just another 45 seconds or so. And let's see if there's anything that you're wondering now or you would like a response to now that we have kind of an idea of what the consultation is and definitely what it isn't. That's right. Karina says it's important because you can know the child needs support, know the child's needs, and you can support them. Absolutely. Ah, seems to me the child's behaviors are the canary in the mine for the parents' regulation and reactions. Very interesting. Yes. Are there recommended ways to communicate this to settings we work in? I find it difficult to bring up. Oh, gosh, Carrie, absolutely. Yes. We'll talk about that a little bit. And it's important to know around that, Carrie, that at INCRA, which is where I provide professional development for consultants, we are looking at other ways to help programs know what the consultation is and how to access it too, as well. What we're doing today together is a part of that because if we can help kind of land it for practitioners who work in programs, you can also speak for it too. Excellent question. We can talk more about that. Okay, Lisa, just be safe. Be careful. All right, excellent. Keep them coming. And again, we'll have another time to kind of pause and respond to those too. Those are great questions. Also, at the end of this, you will have my contact information. You'll be able to email me with additional questions or anything that we did not make clear for you today. And plus, I love just talking to you and saying hello too. So you'll be able to do that. Let's keep going. So let's look at some of the key concepts that consultants actually use in consultation. I will be able to point out some of the language around our credentialing and certification, the fact that we're non-clinical, some of those things as we walk through these things to help you get an even keener understanding. So, infant and early childhood mental health consultation, as we said, is really focused on the environment being a significant, impactful teacher for the children to help them grow their capacity to regulate their emotions, to express their emotions, and to tailor their behavioral responses developmentally appropriately as they grow and develop so that they feel safe in the space. They have safe and secure relationships with other children and with the adults, and that they're able to get around the environment and do the work of learning that children do in their early childhood spaces, in their environment, within the context of their families, out in the community, anywhere that they may be. That is our work to help children feel socially, emotionally, mentally, and intellectually safe, able, and confident. We do that by working with the adults. Okay. The second dot point talks about healthy social, emotional, and mental well being directly impacts a child's development to be able to become strong, able, capable, lifelong learners. It is true that academics is important and that children need to arrive at kindergarten ready, but very often, when other people who are receiving our children think about readiness, they don't think about that social and emotional part of what makes a child a competent learner. They think about the academic parts, and that's important, but it's actually a marriage of both of those. Children should have some knowledge of the academic concepts around them, the letters, the numbers, the colors, those types of things, but they should also feel safe, cared for, they should have a sense of inquiry and curiosity. They should feel like they can use materials and supplies and things competently, and they should feel confident about themselves as interested and curious learners. That's what infant and early childhood mental health consultation helps to do. The consultant who comes into the spaces where most of you are, many of you are, comes in with a tool bag, a set of skills that are specific and specialized to consulting. They come as people with certain attributes. When they come into the field, they're bringing with them certain characteristics about themselves that we'll see in a little bit. And they marry those to techniques and strategies and methods that help the people who work with young children build that capacity in themselves so that they can create the environments that do foster and strengthen the capacity of everyone, the children, anyone in administration, and their families as well. Okay, let's keep going. And remember, if you have questions, comments, or thoughts, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll get to them. So, in a nutshell, that's an overview of what the consultation is. We remember it's not clinical. It's central to social, emotional, intellectual, and mental wellness and that development in young children. It is delivered by consultants who have specialized skills and they get ongoing training and development in those skills. And it's targeted at building the capacity to nurture healthy environments in adults who work in all the places where children and families are being served. This is not necessarily and not usually direct service to children. It's to the people who work with the children who provide that direct service. So in our state, I'm really pretty proud about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to move that like that. In our state, we have a tool. We have something called the Illinois Model for Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation. It is a wonderful tool. Not every state has it. Not every state has something like it, even, but we do. So I want to take just another slide or so to talk about that. The model is delivered to all consultants in Illinois who go through the orientation to the model. It is not required at this point. We hope that's coming. But most of our consultants, and we have more than 100, and I think we're on our way to about 130 or 140 across the state. But most of them will be offered this professional development cohort and they will take it. So it's over time. They take the cohort, they receive the Illinois model, and they are able to use it to learn and also strengthen their consultation when they come to work in centers, in classrooms, in homes, and things like that. There are some key features here listed on this slide to the model. The model has been designed over time, and it's designed to strengthen the capacity of early childhood professionals, families, and programs, all the adults who are working in our Illinois systems. The model focuses specifically on Illinois demographics through research, who we know is in our state participating in early childhood services and activities. And so it strengthens the capacities of the adults who are doing that. It focuses on promoting healthy social, emotional, and I always add intellectual and mental development in infants and young children from birth, from toddlerhood, from preschool, from wherever they enter into the early childhood system. The focus of the consultation is to really promote healthy development in those areas, in those children. It is definitely relationship based. Relationships are central to the consultation. And so the consultation, the orientation to the model provides a foundation for those relationships to be able to be built, and also provides for consultants to have an opportunity to have reflective practice, which is also central for them to be able to look at their work, look at their caseloads, look at their colleagues and who they're working with on the care team, and reflectively think about their methods and their strategies and how to move through that service delivery that they're doing. The Illinois model is all about collaboration, a care team, consultants, program supervisors, directors, paraprofessionals, all of the staff at a site or in a center, and even children and families when that becomes necessary to enhance the environment that they're working in. And finally, the Illinois model helps shape the professional development plans with shared goals. So that consultant is really instrumental in helping the teams in these sites and centers be able to lay hold of the type of PD that might be helpful to the teams, to the staffs overall as a whole. So that is some of what is provided, some of the key features of the Illinois model for infant and early childhood mental health consultation. If you receive a consultant in your site, in your classroom, in your home child care, in your business, more than likely here in Illinois, that consultant has gone through the orientation to the Illinois model, and then they use the Illinois model as an important part of their planning for working with you. If they haven't taken it, they can always sign up for it. We do it about 2 times a year, and you're welcome to talk with them about it. And hey, have you taken the orientation? Are you interested in the orientation? If you think about it, because it just enhances their work. It just makes it that much more better because the model is tailored for our Illinois flavor of early childhood. And there really is an Illinois way of doing it. Thoughts, comments, go ahead and pop that into the chat. We'll move forward in a little bit. We will stop and respond to some of those. Okay, so that's the Illinois model. Let's kind of go into the model now, and I'm going to pull out the first two components of it that are key to successful consultation. Without these first two components, consultation would be mediocre at best. And so we're thinking about what skills and what attributes make the consultation work effectively. What makes it effective? And what is it that your consultants who are coming into your spaces are bringing into the space with them? Okay. Those are consultant competencies. Let's look at them. Okay. So there's 8 core competencies that grow and expand in multiple ways as a consultant continues in practice. That's why I say core competencies, because from these 8 core ones, other ones grow and become developed. Some become most important depending on the environment, while others aren't as relevant, but they all have to be there from the beginning. And so I've listed them over the next couple of slides. Let's walk through them briefly. And after that, we'll take a moment to attend to the chat and see if there's anything we can respond to. So the first core competency, a consultant must have a knowledge of early childhood development, mental health, and early care and education. So they have to have a mixture of some years of experience in each of those, providing actual services in early childhood education, development, early care and education, early learning, all of those kind of same and associated fields, and having some kind of knowledge of childhood mental health and as we said, early care and education, development in early care and education. That's a core competency that gets a consultant in the door to even become credentialed or certified through Erickson Institute. Credentialing comes through the state of Illinois, credentialing comes through in Illinois, the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Association. Certification comes through Erickson Institute. And this first competency is what can get someone's foot in the door. The second one is we want consultants to come with a natural ability to build relationships and to work collaboratively with multiple people, with providers, with administrators, with program leaders, with families and parents and caregivers, and within the systems that we offer. Illinois offers many early childhood systems. There's Head Start, there's Preschool for All, there's home visiting. We offer all those systems. And so consultants should come in with some ability and some engagement in being able to be collaborative and not wanting to work as the expert on a situation. That third one, ability to work effectively throughout diverse cultures and communities all over the communities we serve in Illinois. Many of us are from many different places. Someone here is from Sandwich and I'm from Plano. We're close neighbors. This is a rural community. It's a little bit different. It's a different demographic than near West Side of Chicago, for example. But as a consultant, I need to be able to um, absorb and understand what the cultural flavor is in whatever community I'm working in and be able to be effective in that. Doesn't mean I know it all and that I'm completely culturally competent. We know that's probably not even possible, but it means that I have an open mind, an open spirit, and I'm constantly learning, and then I'm using what I'm learning to enhance my consultation. That's number three, an ability to work effectively through diverse cultures and communities. And finally, this number four is an ability to effectively and sensitively get information. There's a person in our field who is a leader who calls this thickening the story. So when consultants, when we get our first kind of um, program notes, maybe our case notes, and we learn where we're going and who's in the space and what the teacher or educator might want to work on, we have some information to start with, and we can start building out our plan for going in from that. But Lauren Wiley, who is one of the leaders of this in the state of Illinois, reminds us often to thicken the story, get the perspective of the people involved. Don't just decide as a consultant, I know what's going on here. Let me solve the problem. Talk to parents, read other things, get the perspective of the teacher, the educator, the paraprofessional, the cook, the chef. What's the perspective? Because remember, you're talking about the environment. Consultants are thinking about the whole environment, not just the child or a particular family. They're thinking about the whole environment. And so being able to sensitively get information while remaining respectful and keeping people's dignity at the front of our minds is a skill and it is a competency. And so those are the first four. Let's look at the second four of the eight competencies. Okay. Number five is to be able to be collaborative in developing a plan for the site, for the space, figuring out what issues should be addressed, how they're going to be addressed, and then how are we going to know we're successful? How are we going to measure that once we, the care team, have implemented some sort of plan? The sixth competency is a knowledge of community systems and resources and ability to develop partnerships. Because we know as consultants that we're going to need support. The site maybe is going to need extra support. What are some of the resources in, around, and near that community that sites can reach out to and get some of the things they need? Materials, supplies, different types of help and support. What are the resources available to enhance and uplift that space that we are working? And then there's an understanding of how trauma impacts early childhood development. That's one of the first things we want to be looking at. Might there be exposure to trauma historically, meaning in the past, in an adult's life, in a child's life, maybe in the life of the center and the community? Is there any sense that there may be some traumatic impacts here? And if so, how do we address those sensitively, carefully, but thoroughly so that we can mitigate some of that impact? And then finally, the eighth competency is a strong commitment to ethics and to reflective practice. So codes of ethics might be our early childhood codes of ethics, our consultation codes of ethics, but also what's ethical in that space that we're working in? Do we know those things, and are we making sure that we are holding to those things, and are we continually reflecting on our work? How that conversation go today? How was I feeling when I arrived at the center today? All of that is part of the initial competencies that are important. And these, no one comes in the door with these competencies all perfect and packed up. And I'm here, I'm super consultant, I've got it all. That doesn't happen. But over time, through practice and through the reflective supervision opportunities and through professional development, consultants build and they strengthen their competencies and they add those additional competencies to these core ones. and they add new skills to their work. So, this is another good place to pause here. Go ahead if you have thoughts or questions and put them into the chat. Let's see what you're thinking. Oh, great question. Lisa said to be a consultant, is it necessary to be an LCSW? It is not. You were trained as a developmental therapist and you feel like your training experience will qualify me. So we do not discourage clinical training. It helps, but and I do have a slide to show this. It is, we don't do the clinical work, but you definitely have the requirement for having had some mental health work that goes along with early childhood education. So absolutely, that's a great question. You're not required to be clinical, and we don't work on the clinical side of it, but the clinical experience you bring is part of some of the recommendations, the requirements, and that definitely fits well. Let's see, how can I learn more about the training for Illinois mental health consultation consultant credentials? Great, Lisa, I'm glad you're interested. I'm going to put my email information, or Karen may already have it and she will give it to you, and you'll reach out to me and I'll give you some information and resources. Okay. All right. Keep it going. If you have other things, we will stop again as we move forward. Okay. So we've just talked about competencies that consultants must bring when they're interested in the field. Along with the competencies, there's a position from which we work. It's a pivot point, I'll call it, if you will. And this position is called the consultative stance. Okay, the consultative stance. This is a home base. It's where it's a foundation of all the work, and it really relies on the relationship with all of the parties involved. Um, that relationship has to be central or at the center of the consultation work. This is why you keep hearing me referencing the care team, the administrators, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the people who support the center. They all, a relationship with all of those people is really the absolute foundation of this work being as successful and as effective as it can be. Okay. So let's spend a few moments reading about and learning about the consultative stance. So, in the model for infant and early childhood mental health consultation, which is specific to Illinois for our state, you will see the reference to the consultative stance being the consultant's way of being. That's that first dot point up there. The consultant's way of being, the way of showing up in the classroom. So that involves engaging in ethical practices, um, being able to represent being able to represent the field of consultation strongly and clearly. Um, the consultant has to continually use a set or some strategies of self-assessment and reflective supervision themselves to ensure that they're using the skills that they need to be using that can be most effective, and that they are indeed staying in that consultative position. The stance is crucial for building effective relationships and facilitating consultation that is effective and that works the way um, we want it to work and produces the outcomes. And so you see here on this slide other just another way of saying that I wrote. So I'm going to give you just a few seconds to go ahead and read through these dot points. I use a lot of dot points so that stuff can be clear. So go ahead and read through those. So the consultative stance is what fosters the relationship. It's what keeps everybody on equal ground, equal standing, with curiosity, with expertise, because everybody on the care team brings their own expertise to the table. It's what keeps us curious and reflective. What do you think? How does this look from your lens? If we have an LCSW on the care team, that's awesome because we can say what's at play here that I might be missing. That isn't my expertise. And it also using the consultative stance actually strengthens us in continuing to do it. It fosters our confidence in actually getting good impacts from being in that consultative and curious position as we work through the issues that we're working through. And we want, at the end of the day, of all the consultation work, we want every implementation of a strategy, a method, a technique for mitigating a problem or for strengthening the environment. We want it to have been collaborative. We want it to have been the idea of the group, not just the consultant saying, well, try this and try this and try this. We want everybody to say, well, we think this might work, and for that to be formed. So the consultative stance is difficult in two ways. Number one, sometimes when programs need a consultant or they call in for a consultant, there is a big problem in the space and they really just want it mitigated. Please stop, Tanya from biting, or Dylan keeps kicking everybody and this is a problem. And so in that, when people really need help, they're looking to someone for expertise, not a lot of reflection. They want you to come in and say, here's three things you can do to help stop this biting or kicking or whatever it is. But that's not really the best way that consultation works. And that doesn't ensure a long term positive outcome that will stick, more than gathering the care team, everyone involved, and working on the environment. How can we help the environment to foster for children? I don't need to bite. I don't need to kick. I'm not frustrated. I can speak or I can express my emotions non-verbally and they will be addressed. So staying in the consultative stance can be difficult when you're needed and people feel like it's emergent that you help us. It's also difficult from the personal point of view. Consultants do come in. Some of them do have clinical degrees, like Lisa was asking. Some of them have been in this work for 30 plus years. Some of us, like I came in, had been in the classroom for decades and really have a great backpack full of tools and things to use to make the environment positive for children. So sometimes you just feel like the expert and you're like, let's just do this. I know it'll work. And that may not be wrong. As a consultant, it may be exactly the thing that's going to work. But again, if we don't arrive at those strategies collaboratively and everybody adopts those strategies because everybody helped to come up with them, they're not going to be sticky. They're not going to stick. They're not going to stay. And that's not the way you want to enter and then leave the center. Okay. The consultative stance. So this final slide about the consultative stance is just it's just a little graphic that you can read through to kind of help you see that positionality. So let's take another, 35, 45 seconds and just read through this graphic. And as you read through them, what are your questions? What are your comments? Go ahead and drop those into the chat and let's take a moment on them. Karina, I love that. Mental health in children is just as important as learning to read or write from the earliest years. Children need to feel safe, loved, and understanding. That's it. That's how you can talk about the consultation too. Infant and early childhood mental health consultation helps to foster that. Um, okay, Dawn, go ahead and email me. You're interested in the mental health credential. Awesome. And there, Karen has put some information in on the certification program. Yes, Mary, it takes a village. Any other thoughts, questions around the consultation? We know what it is not now. We have an idea of what it is. You know the top two competencies, which are the top two components, I'm sorry, which are the 8 competencies and remaining in the consultative stance. Anything else that's on your mind before we shift a little bit and put a certain lens over this work? Let's see. Kelsey agrees that there should be a care team. Yes, everyone should get a say because hearing everyone's ideas, yes, that's what creates the ideas. That's thickening the story. That's what makes sure that we get the right idea and not just one or two people's what they think might be best. Excellent, Kelsey. Collaboration like this can sometimes feel like it moves too slowly when programs, yes, are in crisis, like you mentioned, but so meaningful and leads to better outcomes for children. Mary, you are exactly right. And that's part of the reason that it's hard to stay in the consultative stance. We want to run in and help and solve problems quickly, and the programs want us to hurry up and solve problems. So it can feel slow. It's important, we as consultants know it's important to help you as practitioners and all the different things you do see the incremental moves, the things that, although we haven't mitigated the problem yet, look how much better this transition time went, or look how much um, easier this child or all the children got on their cots and went to rest time or nap time. So those incremental things become important because it can feel very slow. Excellent point. Do you find that consultants may be the catalyst for supporting the collaborative effort? Oh, Carrie, yes, absolutely. And we talk about this a lot in the orientation to the Illinois model. The consultant actually holds that. They hold the responsibility for making sure that everyone's voice is heard, even the voice of children in whatever way they are expressing or communicating what they need to communicate as well. And so the consultant is the catalyst. They remind people that you have a voice. Please participate. Please participate. Please share. Please let us know what your thoughts are. They hold that and they also make the equal space for everybody to be able to do that. That's awesome. I wish more parents would get involved as well as part of the team. Yes, Jessica, it's anywhere that the consultant can help an educator or an administrator make a parent feel welcome enough to jump in and participate, it just makes it that much better. And it's without the accusing. It's not like, oh, something's going on at home, which is often how we approach it. Unfortunately, we don't mean to be accusatory like that, but we could say, oh, something's going on at home because we're seeing this behavior in the classroom, as opposed to saying, hey, I have a wonder. Here's something that's going on in the classroom. What are some of your ideas? How do you handle this at home? Have you seen this at home? Being able to pull the parent in. It's a team collaboration so that everyone is in tune with the program. Thank you. Excellent. Um, Timely support can make a difference. That is true. Consultants, Karina, I'm assuming consultants' timely support can make a difference. Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Try to get the parents' opinion. Yep, and what they think. Wonderful. This is it. So many of you seem poised to work with a consultant already, to have a consultant come into your programs because now you understand the nature of the consultation. Many of you already have these natural abilities and skills that make this collaborative team work. It's you're set to do it. Thank you. Keep them coming, and we will. I think we're doing good on time. Okay. I want to leave some time at the end in case we do have questions. Go ahead and keep your comments coming in there, and let's add a lens over this. Okay. We're going to add a lens, I call it a liberated lens. It's about, um, it's really about being responsive. Okay. So our consultants do work through a lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, belonging, all of those things that we've added to the conversation that point to humanity, that points to people being who they are You being who you are as the practitioner, and consultants being who they are, and bringing with them all of those things that are important, all of those cultural things. It's a fairly new lens on the work. It's expanded across our state um, greatly, even from just 10 years back. Outcomes for children of all backgrounds are much better than they were 10 years ago in this field. And the workforce itself has grown, it's expanded to include many identities in the field who are consultants. And we serve all counties across the state and all communities and demographics more than we did just 5 years ago. So the consultation has expanded itself culturally and identity wise greatly just over the past several years. This means that we are much better at being able to respond to the identities and the experiences of the places where we're serving. We may live and work in those communities. We may come from other communities, but being able to be culturally responsive to what's going on, which is what we're going to talk about on the next slide, has really improved our outcomes. Okay. So being culturally responsive is one of the key tools now that are in the consultation toolbox, and it's also in the Illinois model too. This ensures that the practice of the infant and early childhood mental health consultation is both equitable and has a positive impact on the early learning environment. Both of those go hand in hand. If the work isn't equitable and the remedies that are happening, the mitigation, the solutions, the enhancements that are happening are not equitable, then the impacts may feel positive, but are they sticky? Are they going to last over time? Are children going to be able to take a sense of confidence in who they are with them from that space? Okay, let's look at this slide. Go ahead and read what cultural responsiveness is. I think we hear this a lot in our practice as educators, but here's kind of a simpler explanation of what it is. Take a moment or two and read that. Okay. So cultural responsiveness is about understanding and including. That's what the responding is, responding to the combination of something that of everything, excuse me, that someone is. A combination of the things that are in a space that people bring to a space, that full range, the languages, the physical appearances of people, the aesthetics of the environment and the community, the weather patterns, all those things, being able to include those things and get strength from those things in the work. Okay, and what it takes to do that, because that can sound difficult and you may feel like you need to go learn things, and sometimes you do, but what it really takes is a value for diversity. If I come from a really, really warm climate and I'm going to provide services in a really, really cold climate, it would help me to understand, how do people keep themselves warm here? What do they use to keep themselves warm? That's a cultural difference, that's a cultural value. So, valuing all sorts of diversity and being willing to grow and deepen our knowledge. Ask the questions in the right spaces and places, read up on some things, watch media things that are important to that culture, listen to the music. All those different things are helpful in growing and deepening. It doesn't have to be a super academic way to learn. Eat in a community you've never been in before. Eat at their restaurants. Hang around in some of the places where people are and just soak it up and enjoy it and grow a value for it. The other thing it requires is working with other people toward creating spaces for children and families where diversity is acknowledged and valued. So letting children and families come in their full diversity, whoever, and they may be grandparents raising grandchildren. That's a culture. There's a culture to that. Being able to say, yes, come on in, bring that in, and let's see all the value that it has for strengthening our classroom. That's cultural responsiveness. And down below is what it requires. There's also something that I've termed cultural utilization. This is just being intentional and acknowledging that there is value, there's beauty, there's pleasure, there's huge significance in other cultures, other ways of being together, other communities. Okay. There is uh, um, strength in that. There are tools we can use. My sister, my blood birth sister, lives in Florida. She's been there for a bunch of years. She was born here like us. I live in the, Chicagoland, Midwest area. She lives in Florida now. She's been there for a number of years. Our grandmother was there decades before, and she has become accustomed to the constantly warm weather. When she comes home for a visit, it used to annoy me that she would complain about the cold all the time. And it would be like 57 degrees here in Chicago. And, for us, we're like, it's great. It's not cold at all. And she would be like, oh, I need to go to Burlington and buy a coat. I need you to help me. And I would get so annoyed because I would be like, it is not freezing. And you're from here. Like you've lived in this. But I've learned over the years her value, what she values is having temperate weather that doesn't make her feel cold. And so now the way that I work collaboratively with her when she's coming is I keep a coat here and a jacket for my sister. And when I know she's coming and it may be fall or maybe spring, it's not dead of summer, I have those things ready for her. I send it to the cleaners, get it clean. I have warm, fuzzy socks ready for her around the house. Like I use what's important to her to draw her in and make her feel safe, seen, and heard. That's just an example of cultural utilization. Doesn't have to be necessarily about ethnic things, or it can be, but that's not the only way that it's important. It's ways of being with other people that value who they are and find significance. And in order to be able to do that well, adults want to grow their knowledge of cultural diversity really authentically over time through relationships, just learning other things about other people. And you want to use, well, our consultants want to use their new and their growing knowledge to make spaces better where children are, to bring in more of those things that children may value. We want to use it in our ways of teaching and sharing and talking with one another. How do we help teachers create classroom routines and help children in group care intentionally and consistently so that we're not just stopping by your cultural way of being for today or this week or this month, but we are incorporating that into the classroom setting regularly so that each child is able to feel seen, heard, and confident. Okay. And the final one in this liberated lens that we are now superimposing over the consultation is trauma informed practice. Being sure that we are considering that there may be some trauma exposure in the past, currently, or I'm sorry, in the past or currently, something happening right now that may be lending itself to what's going on in the classroom space. Okay. So we don't want to assume, this is not an assumption that because a child is demonstrating some behavior, or even an adult, a teacher is demonstrating some behavior, that it's because they are traumatized or they're having some sort of traumatic experience. That's not what we're saying here. But the consultant should go in with a keen understanding of what some of the impacts of trauma can be on young children, and to be able to help educators look for that in case there is excessive crying, a child who is fearful of being put down and not carried. Is there some possible potential traumatic experience here? And to be able to use the practices from that understanding, that would help us to really get at what is going on and mitigate it and strengthen the environment so that child, again, can feel safe, or those children. Trauma informed practice, or consultant being able to really use it effectively, requires these dot points that you see down here, these 5 dot points. growth in knowledge, understanding trauma and potentially traumatic experiences and what those impacts are. Really understanding that many people have experienced trauma, regardless of whether we are like one another or not like one another. There have been traumatic experiences in the lives of many people that previously just weren't talked about, weren't discussed. And now we have more understanding and more freedom and bravery in spaces to say, yes, this, this really happened. And children sometimes communicate that through their behaviors. Other things that it requires acknowledging that children and families with diverse identities, including race, ethnicities, abilities, neurodivergence, they have compounded experiences that could be potentially traumatic too. So things that pile up on top of one another and make it really hard to navigate just a good day on some days. And finally, a willingness to be reflective about our own experiences and those that may be traumatic in nature. It is a key thing that our consultants that come into your environments are not only clear on our potentially traumatic experiences and ways that reflect on things, but that we are able to support educators and other adults who work with children in examining that in bravery too. Could it be that the reason I'm triggered by some certain behavior or the reason that I am raising my voice all the time is because I'm dealing with something that is causing me a traumatic experience? So, consultants need to be well trained and confident in using these practices as they develop and use them in the space. Okay. So, before we move on to just our final kind of set of topics here, this is another good place to just stop and see what you're thinking in the chat. Please put something in there if you have it on your mind, and I'll read through them and then we'll move on in just a moment. It's important for visiting staff to listen with humility and sensitivity to those who are in the trenches daily. Yes, to be sensitive to what people who are working with children daily are saying and thinking. Yes. Being mutual. Yes. One of the, Lula, one of the things that we talk about in the orientation is the mutuality of endeavor, meaning that we all want the same thing. And so we're all working toward the same thing. More involved parents. Oh, every child carries the richness of their culture, language, and traditions. Understanding their family background and values helps teachers provide more sensitive and effective support. Absolutely. Oh, Karen has put a resource there. That's awesome. Great. Keep your thoughts coming. This is awesome. This is not my favorite way to communicate, but again, because there are so many of us, this is how we have to do it. I appreciate that people are putting thoughts and questions and ideas into the chat. So let's move forward. We have, a little bit left to go, but this is kind of the last big overarching um, idea that we're going to be working in and under. And this is the art and the science of infant and early childhood mental health consultation. There are certain things that make it work. I call it what makes it go. There are certain things that make it go. It is an art and there's a science to it. And the foundation of it is relationship. Everything is about the relationship. And a consultant is constantly assessing and looking for how those relationships are going. Okay. Consultation, it is a balance. It's the science and the theory of how we do the thing. And consultants get lots of support with that through the Illinois Association, through INCRA and Gateways, through Erickson Institute. There is a national center even on infant and early childhood mental health. There's lots of ways for them to get that science, that practice of doing it. And then there's the art of the practice, honing my skills, being able as a consultant to hold culture, hold identity, hold my own experiences and my own culture and identity, see the space I'm in, understand the community around the space. That's the art of it. And it is a constant balance, a back and forth to just keep those things not perfect. We're never going for perfection, but to keep those things balanced and moving upright so that we can use them all in our practice to work with the professionals that we're working with and be able to enhance the space. So the going back to the idea of relationships, the relationship in consultation is triadic. It's a triangle relationship. And we'll see that in a couple ways. Okay. So this is one of my two favorite slides that I use all the time when I'm trying to explain what consultation does and what it looks like. This first one, these we call each one of these little triangular slices a wedge. Okay. Infant and early childhood mental health consultation is in the wedges all the way to the left. Those are the wedges that we work in. We work in promotion and prevention. We are trying to promote healthy learning environments where children are seen, they're socially, emotionally, mentally, and intellectually stimulated, engaged, encouraged, and confident as they grow and develop. We stay in that area of our work even if our consultants have a clinical degree and clinical experiences, that is not what they bring into the consultation. They bring in all of those competencies that we talked about, and they stay in the consultative stance so that we are promoting a healthy social emotional environment and we are preventing a big issue in that space from happening. That then, in that space or in that adult, or maybe in that child, that would then need to move over to these other wedges you see that are clinical in nature. This is where that point where those two arrows meet, that's where a consultant would decide collaboratively with the educator or the person they're working with to do a referral and say, we've done a lot of work and we have enhanced things really well, but this child, or and sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's an adult, or this family or parent, they need some specialized help that we don't have. And then we may make a connected, warm referral to some clinical support or some other support. That's where we see treatment and recovery. We do not work in that space. And we don't cross over and mix because we can really do some harm if that isn't our expertise, and it isn't. So infant and early childhood mental health consultation falls only within the promotion and prevention services on the continuum of care, which is this kind of half circle thing. Once we have to do more than promoting healthy spaces and preventing unhealthy spaces, we make warm referrals. Okay. So this is my first favorite slide. And then this next one that you see is my second favorite. It really shows the triadic nature of the relationships. This is how consultation works. This is how it gets done. So let's follow this from the lower left-hand corner that says qualified infant and early childhood mental health consultant. That's me and my colleagues would be coming into your space, one of your spaces. And so I come in to work with the providers, the teachers, the early educators, the paraprofessionals, the social workers that may be there. I also come to work with anybody who interacts with the children, the custodial team, the cook or the chef, like anyone who might be interacting with the children can participate in our work because the children learn and have close relationships with all of those people. So I come in as a consultant and I get into partnership. You follow that green arrow up as you see, and I help build capacity in the providers, everyone in the center, in the classroom, in the school, in the site. That's where the bulk of my work is as a consultant. I'm working with adults. You will notice coming down the other side of that triangle, there is no green line. Now that's a blue line because the child care providers, the adults in the learning space, in the early childhood space, they work directly with the children and the families. They are building their capacity to do this really deep prevention and promotion work, and they are delivering that with the children and families through all the ways that you do it. in your classroom and in your practices and in your work. I build a partnership with you and you build strong connection to children and families. And then you will notice there is no red, green, orange, or yellow arrow on the bottom that's going from the consultant to the children and families or the other way. Typically, we don't work with the children and families. Not that we can't. It's not that we don't, that we are not allowed to, but the work that we do is to strengthen your work to be able to work with them. So that blue arrow is where that happens. Okay? So just take a moment and metabolize that a little bit. And there is a little bonus here that I put the bottom. Children docent or help they navigate other children along as they grow and learn in that healthy space you're building, you're helping to build that promotion and prevention. They then can help their friends, their classmates to to develop their capacities better too, because the space is enhancing what they know and what they do in terms of social, emotional, mental, and intellectual development as well. All right, let's keep going. So, reflective practice, central to a consultant's work, seeing myself and seeing others in this work. This is one of the ways that I stay in the consultative stance. Okay. In order for me to be reflective, I need to have I need to carry these mindsets that you see on this slide with me. I need to be curious and inquisitive. Those kind of go together. Curious, kind of like, what is going on here? Here's the great things I see about this environment. I wonder if other things that I'm seeing are actually true or factual here. And inquisitive is more like, now that I see something that can be enhanced or we want to work on this thing, what is the best way to go about that? How do we approach this thing? I must be brave. I never, as a consultant, I never promise safety. And I never say that I feel completely safe because I can't promise that. You never know about the unknown. But I can always feel brave and I can transfer that feeling and create as a consultant. Remember, the consultant is holding in balance the whole care team and making sure everyone's heard, everyone has voice, making sure everyone feels brave enough to respond. People can write what they're feeling, they can voice it, however that comes out. A person should feel brave enough in this relationship to be able to participate. Collaborative, we've talked about that quite a lot of it, and flexible or malleable. One of the things that's hard for consultants, especially when we've had a lot of years, is to not say, no, I know this is going to work. Let's just do this. I've done it a million times before. This is going to work. But to allow a mitigation and enhancement, a resolution to come from the team, from everyone involved. Maybe it's coming from the educator in that room because you've been reflective enough, and the educator's like, yeah, I want to try this. You may be thinking, no, I don't, that's not going to work. But to be flexible and say, absolutely, let's try it. Let's see. How can we make sure that it comes out the best that it can? So these are the ways that we must remain as consultants in order to be reflective in our work. Let's keep going. This is a side by side. I'm going to give you a few moments just to read this, because as a consultant, as I'm growing and developing, I'm shifting from these mindsets and these strategies, ways of working on the left, to what is most effective on the right. Take a moment or two and read through those. Mm, mhm. Okay. So becoming a really good, effective consultant really involves this kind of growth and development and traversing along a continuum of skill sets in our work, from quick judgments of others saying, oh, this, she's angry, or this teacher is, whatever, to just really wondering, what is happening? Could this be a trauma response? Is this a trigger? What's the support level for this person? Being able to do that. And I kept talking about earlier, friends, how as consultants, we do not hold the role of expert in any way. Well, one of the ways that we can be an expert and hold that role is to be an expert in thickening the story, asking more and deeper questions. Tell me about that. I'm interested that you said that. Say more about that. What's making you feel and think that way? I had a reflection when you said that. May I share it with you? So that is one place that we can be experts. People, by and large, will talk about themselves when they feel like they can, without repercussion, without you saying, oh, well, there's the problem. That's why you scream all the time, because you get to work late every day. Like, if they think that's going to happen, they're not going to open up and share what's really going on. But when you ask questions, say, tell me what's at the bottom of you saying that. Tell me what you're feeling right now. Bring up an emotion. Ask questions. Ask more and more questions, and you're going to get more understanding of what's going on so that you can create a better plan. Okay. And just seeing people as whole and also multifaceted. Someone's bad day, bad moment, undesirable behavior is not who they are 100%. That's just a component, a facet. Okay. So let's move on. Two, I love this part, and this is all part of the art and the science, the parallel process. And as early childhood educators, you know about this. You know, what I do for others, others do for others, right? It's helping children develop empathy and sympathy and a sense of responsibility for others, and wanting to help and wanting to trust others. And the key thing for us to know here, and I'm just going to read this one and then you can read through the other parts of this. Every relationship influences every relationship. So it's important to know that if you have a relationship with another person in any way, it is going to have some influence on you and on others. And when we take that into our work as consultants and also as educators, it helps us to stay present of mind about nurturing the relationships and making them good ones, strong ones, effective ones that do promote a sense of bravery and in our social and emotional environments. Okay, so go ahead and take another few seconds and read through this one. So the way that I approach this and keep myself reflective in this area is I think about communities at large as a whole when I'm consulting, and I think about what kind of environment we want communities to be for children, and then that's how I relate to the adults in the one space that I'm in, because I know that as they grow and develop, and we grow and develop together, they're going to relate to their educators, their staff, their team members in that way. And then those educators and team members who are working with children are going to work with children and families that way. And then the families are going to go out into those communities where the space is located and treat others that way in businesses, at appointments, in their neighborhoods, and that is going to influence the cultural ways of being in a whole community. That's how I think about it, kind of backwards, and it reminds me to always keep the relationship central and to remember the parallel process. Key tool in a toolbox of providers. Okay. And this is just This is another way to look at this, just a different type of graphic. Reflective practice is the use of self-awareness, the parallel process, and collaboration to strengthen the environment of any early childhood space that we're in. It builds the capacity in the caregivers, in the adults. When I talk about caregivers, I'm talking about everybody that has a touch point in the life of young children. So, this is a good point to stop and reflect. Thoughts, comments, questions. Carrie says, asking questions isn't an easy thing to do. It takes intentionality and practice. It does. Carrie, our consultants learn some special strategies for asking questions so that you're not just saying, tell me where you're from, tell me who you are, tell me. You're asking, you're getting to, it's called asking better questions. So you're saying things like, what would you like me to know? What would be important for me to know right now? Questions like that, not just getting at the facts, but helping a person to be reflective themselves. What do you feel like I'm missing as we talk about your classroom, for example? That's one. Or is there anything I am missing? If you were the consultant, what would you want to tell me? Those types of questions. Mm-hmm. Teachers play an essential role. Their observation can notice a child's heart may not yet know to express a change in mood, sadness, isolation, aggression. Yes, can be signs that something is wrong. Absolutely. All sorts of behavior. Not wanting to sleep, too much sleep, a child, in the space, in the childcare space. Behaviors are communication. All relationships influence each other. Every connection affects another. You got it. That's the parallel process. The relationship between a teacher and a child can impact how the child interacts with family members or peers. Yes, that's what we drive home with our consultants. Oh, how frequently does the team meet, or is this case by case? That's a great question. Every consultant's work depends on the program type they're working in and who, because certain things are funded for like a weekly visit and a meeting or a monthly visit and a meeting. Other sites and centers are paying for it themselves, and they would create that contract together. So that depends on where the consultant is providing the consultation. Reflective practice. And the person whose name is Xiorys, I feel disrespectful not saying your name because I don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm sorry. Can you pronounce it for me? You're right here in my camera. I didn't know.
No problem, teacher. My name is Xiorys. Xiorys. Xiorys.
Xiorys. Beautiful. Thank you. You're right here. So thank you. I don't like to not say names, but I didn't get it. Thank you, Xiorys. That is, it combines self-awareness, collaboration, the parallel process. Yes. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay. We are at the final couple of slides. There is a little video clip, and then is this going to work for us? I think it is. Okay. When I share this, I need to be sure I'm sharing sound. Hold, please. I'm going to stop sharing for one moment because I need to share sound. Oh. Share sound. Here we go. Okay. I would appreciate a thumbs up or so that I know that you can hear this and you're. Can you see it and hear it?
My name is Ben Goldberger. I am the assistant director.
Oh, I'm sorry.
At Virginia Frank Child Development Center of JCFS Chicago. Virginia Frank has a robust mental health consultant program, and there was a spot open at Howard Area Community Center, which I got to fill as the mental health consultant. Typical day, I arrive around 9 o'clock, I settle in, I check in with the family support workers first. Usually I talk with them about a child that I might be doing an individual observation for, or a meeting with the family, or just anything of concern for that day that we need to focus on. I may have an idea of what I'm going to do, but they may tell me otherwise. At that point, I have to shift gears and set my day according to their needs.
The mental health consultant is working with our family support workers, is working with the families, so that all three of us are working together and are on the same page in order to support the children in the classroom and then have better outcomes. Having our mental health consultant be readily accessible to them just allows them to stop in the middle of the hallway and just share something or just say whatever might be on their mind.
There's a regular rotation of classrooms that I observe. I come in, I say hello, I check in with the teachers. The kids are always going to have a reaction that somebody new is there, so we work through that, the attention being on me, and then I go and sit in the corner and observe. What I'm watching for is the general atmosphere, so what do the teachers convey? I also watch for how the teachers engage the children during circle time, how they adjust to different children's needs based on their ability to learn, to sit still, sort of play well with others. I also watch for how the teachers handle transitions and how they respond to challenging behavior in the classroom as well. But basically, I'm a fly on the wall taking notes, and then later we have a teacher feedback session, and that's where we explore my observations.
Well, one thing that we do try to explain to families from the get-go is that Ben is here. You know, he's part of our center. That person becomes a familiar face to them. And so when we do have to move to an individual consultation, it is not so scary for the families.
Some parents have initially been reluctant to have an individual observation or to engage with me in feedbacks, and that's understandable. Maybe that's been what their experience has been. The important thing to do is to develop that relationship right where they're at and speaking to their concerns directly about what they perceive me to be.
And so that, I would say, has helped in them being a little bit more receptive, because they know who he is. They know that he's really there to ensure that we're providing the best environment that we can for their children, and that we are really there trying to foster their social emotional development.
And then at the end of the day, what I'm doing is kind of circling back to the teachers or circling back to the staff and just making sure that we covered everything, that we addressed whatever concerns they had, whether it's relating to an individual observation or issues that they want to address in the classroom or whatever it might be. Working with the kids, that's the best part for me personally, is walking into a classroom and having 4 little people run up. To me, that's the real payoff every day. Also, I would say the relationships with the staff and the teachers and helping mobilize their community and just being a part of that is really gratifying for me. We're able to create a stronger school environment, improve the quality of classroom experience, both for children and teachers, and making all of the services that the school provides better and better. It's something that's totally unique. I have 12 years in the field as a social worker, and I've never experienced anything like this, and I absolutely love it.
To learn more, please visit our website.
Thank you. I am going to stop sharing now. And Karen, I think we are back in your hands. That's all I have. And thank you everyone for your participation.